For my research project, I decided to go with the Great Awakening, and I'm super excited about this event in history that helped shape the world and the way we look at religion in the world. The research paper will focus on the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening and how, although they are different, they both help shape the American identity. It will begin with a brief overview of the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening. This will expand into the discussion of the era of economic boom that colonial America witnessed, two big revivals that had a lasting influence on the world in terms of faith, government, and human existence. Then relevant details that led to the conflict between the two will be examined. The Great Revival and the profound influence on Christianity will be evaluated. Denominations of Christianity will be analyzed, and the era of rationality will be scrutinized. The essential distinctions between the revolutions and the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening will reveal how the religious atmosphere in American colonies changed, how people were empowered to bind themselves directly to God, and how both helped shape the identity in America. In both of the movements, the historic significance of unification and inclusive society was prevalent, and they both helped shape the American identity. Social boundaries came down during the Great Awakening and in the Enlightenment. The ordinary citizens retained power, established government was dissolved, and the bureaucratic system of Great Britain no longer mirrored the American society. The colonists wanted a spark or motive to rekindle the ancient fire that the first pioneers introduced to the world, to the New World. The sparks that were conscientious and voluntary preachers who felt that they wanted to turn into their inner feelings. In fact, the Great Awakening changed the religious atmosphere of the American colonies. When looking at my sources to use, one of the ones I'm most excited about is Heath Carter and Laura Porter. In their publish Turning Points in History of the American Evangelism, they talk about the significance of the history of the American religion and how they form a single narrative about the extraordinary growth of evangelism. The American evangelism is better understood as it takes on a new domain, task, or power. One of the most diverse trends in the American religious history has been influenced by the Great Awakening and the advent of the fundamentalism and Pentecostalism and the arrival of Billy Graham. All of these changes and much more were the tipping points, and when taken together, they act as straightforward and useful path to grasp how evangelism has become what it is today. So as I move forward in writing my paper and finishing the research of the paper and the sources that I have, that one book I felt like gave a greater insight of all of the aspects of it instead of focusing on one. That specific resource there focused on a time period when I wasn't around or when you weren't around, but also brings us to Billy Graham and how he had a part in the Great Awakening, but not the first Great Awakening, but how all of it was formed to give us the religious freedoms that we have today.